I still remember the sound of the rain that morning, soft at first, then violent, like the world was mourning with me. My husband had gone out early, smiling as always, promising to bring back snacks for the twins. I didn't know that would be the last smile I'd ever see from him. The knock on the door that evening shattered my heart. A stranger stood there, holding his phone and wallet, saying words I couldn't process. Accident, hospital, gone. My knees gave way before my mind could catch up. My babies were crying in the next room, and I had no strength left to comfort them. That night, I lay beside their small bodies, watching the ceiling and wondering how I would live another day without him. The days that followed were a blur of tears and pity. My parents came for the burial, but their eyes were cold. My mother whispered that I should have listened when she warned me not to marry a man with nothing but dreams. My father said feeding me again would be a burden now that I had 2 mouths to feed. When they left, they didn't look back. I felt like a ghost in my own life, left in a small room filled with memories I couldn't escape. But then my husband's younger brother came. He said, "Come home with us. Your family." I didn't know if it was pity or love, but I followed him, holding my babies close, not knowing that decision would shape the rest of my life. When I arrived at my husband's family house, I felt both safe and uneasy. The compound was big, with mango trees lining the walkway and children playing around. My mother-in-law hugged me at the gate, tears in her eyes, whispering that I was now her daughter. I wanted to believe her. They gave me a small room beside the kitchen, clean and warm, and my twins slept peacefully for the first time in days. Every night I prayed silently, thanking God for giving us a home, even if it wasn't truly ours. I promised myself I would work hard, cook, clean, and never give them a reason to send us away. But as the weeks turned into months, I began to notice small changes. My sister-in-law, Ada, stopped smiling at me. She would roll her eyes when I spoke or complain that my children were too noisy. My father-in-law rarely said a word, always sitting on the veranda with a distant look. Sometimes I caught whispers when I passed. "She's eating our food. The twins will grow up thinking this is their house." I swallowed my pride and kept quiet. Each time I felt weak, I looked at my children's faces and found strength again. I told myself this was only temporary, that one day I'd find a way to stand on my own. But deep down, something told me that life under this roof was not going to be as peaceful as I hoped. It started one evening when I overheard Ada talking to her friend outside my window. She said I was pretending to be innocent just to gain the family's sympathy, that I wanted to inherit my husband's father's property through my twins. My heart sank as I listened. I had done nothing but help around the house, cooking, cleaning, even washing her clothes sometimes. Still, they saw me as a burden. I began to feel the distance growing each day. My food portions became smaller, my clothes disappeared from the line, and sometimes my children's toys went missing. I wanted to confront them, but I was afraid of being seen as ungrateful. One night, my mother-in-law called me into her room. She looked tired, her eyes red from crying. She said the family had decided that I should start looking for something to do, maybe small trading, to support myself. I nodded quickly, though I had no money or plan. She pressed a little money into my hand and whispered that some people in the house were beginning to talk too much. I thanked her, but my chest burned with pain. That night, after everyone slept, I sat beside my sleeping twins and cried silently. I didn't want to be a problem to anyone. I only wanted peace, a place where my children could laugh freely. But peace was slowly leaving this house, and I could feel it. The next morning, I tied a scarf over my hair, carried my twins on my back and front, and walked to the nearby market. I didn't know where to begin, but I had to try. I bought small packs of groundnuts and pure water with the little money my mother-in-law gave me, hoping to resell them. At first, people ignored me. I stood under the hot sun, calling out softly, afraid to draw too much attention. A kind woman selling vegetables nearby noticed me and smiled. Her name was Amina. She said she reminded her of herself years ago when she lost her husband. She offered to share her stall space until I found my footing. That small kindness felt like a miracle. For the first time in months, I felt seen, not pitied. Days passed, and my small business began to grow little by little. I came home each evening tired but proud. The twins would run to me with dusty feet and wide smiles, and that made every struggle worth it. But not everyone was happy about my progress. A day started mocking me, saying I was embarrassing the family by selling on the street. My father-in-law said nothing, but I could tell from his silence that he agreed with her. Only my mother-in-law spoke gently, telling me not to mind them, that every big tree started as a seed. I held on to her words. I knew the journey ahead would be hard, but for the first time, I had hope that maybe, just maybe, I could build something for my children without begging for it. One evening, I returned home from the market with my twins asleep on my back, only to meet chaos in the compound. Ade was shouting, waving one of my wrappers in her hand, claiming I had stolen it from her box. I stood frozen, my heart pounding. Before I could speak, she pushed me hard and I almost fell. My mother-in-law rushed out to separate us, but the damage was done. The neighbors had gathered, watching as Ade called me names, saying I was a fake widow, trying to take over her family. I wanted to scream, to defend myself, but my voice refused to come out. Tears filled my eyes as I looked at the wrapper in her hand. It wasn't even hers. It was a gift from Amina at the market. That night, I sat outside under the moonlight, holding my knees close. My mother-in-law came to me quietly and placed a plate of food beside me. She said softly that sometimes people attack what they don't understand. I nodded, unable to speak. My twins stirred in their sleep, and I brushed their tiny hands gently. I realized I had no one in this world except them. I had lost my husband, my parents had turned their backs on me, and now the family that took me in was tearing me apart slowly. That night, I made a silent promise to myself. I wouldn't let bitterness break me. I would rise again, not for revenge, but for peace. Even if the world rejected me, I would build one where my children felt safe. Weeks passed, and I began to focus more on my small trade. Amina introduced me to a woman who supplied goods at cheaper prices, and soon I was selling soap, biscuits, and sachet milk in addition to groundnuts. I woke up before dawn every day, carried my goods on my head, and walked long distances to reach the busy parts of the market. My body ached, but the coins I counted at night gave me strength. Slowly, I started saving little by little inside an old tin I hid under my mat. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Each time I looked at my twins sleeping, I felt proud that I was providing for them, even if the world didn't see it. One afternoon, as I was arranging my goods, a young man stopped by my stall. He said he used to know my late husband from school. His name was Daniel. He bought something small, but stayed to talk. He said he admired my strength and offered to help me get a small table to display my goods instead of keeping them on the floor. I thanked him and thought little of it until the next day when he returned with a used wooden table. My heart melted at the kindness. But that act brought new whispers. People in the compound began to say I was seeing a man already. Ada laughed loudly each time Daniel came near, making sure everyone heard her comments. I ignored her, though it hurt deeply. I knew rumors could destroy, but for now, I only wanted to survive. The whispers soon became louder than my footsteps. Every time I entered the compound, I could feel eyes following me. Ada would stop talking the moment I passed. Even my father-in-law began to avoid me. One morning, I overheard two neighbors saying my twins might not even belong to my late husband. I froze behind the wall, shaking from anger and shame. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept wondering how people could be so cruel. I wanted to pack my few things and leave, but I had nowhere to go. My mother-in-law noticed my silence and sat beside me. She said quietly, "When people throw stones at you, build with them." Her words stayed in my heart. I decided not to run anymore. I would prove them wrong, not by talking, but by living. A few days later, Daniel helped me register for a local women's cooperative. They gave me a small loan to expand my business. I started selling soft drinks and bread, and soon customers began calling me Madam. It felt strange, but beautiful. I used part of my profit to enroll my twins in a small school. The day I saw them in uniform, my eyes filled with tears. My hard work was finally showing results. But peace never lasts long in this world. That same evening, Ada barged into my room and accused me of bringing shame to the family with my new boyfriend. My mother-in-law tried to calm her, but she wouldn't stop shouting. I stood there, silent, gripping my twins' school bags. That was when I realized the storm I feared had just begun. The next morning, I woke up to find my belongings scattered outside. My wrappers, my twins' clothes, even my small savings tin, all thrown into the dust. Ada stood in the middle of the compound shouting that I had no right to stay in their house anymore. My heart broke as my children clung to my legs crying. My mother-in-law tried to defend me, begging her husband to intervene, but he only shook his head and said, "She has brought too much shame to us." I fell to my knees, tears streaming down my face. I swore I had done nothing wrong, but no one listened. That afternoon, under the hot sun, I packed what I could and walked out with my twins. I had no idea where we were going, but staying there would have killed me slowly. I went to the market to see Amina. When she saw me, she stopped what she was doing and hugged me tightly. I told her everything, my voice shaking. She wiped my tears and said, "You are not the first woman to start over, and you won't be the last." That night, she let me and my twins sleep in her small store. It was cramped and hot, but at least it was peaceful. As I lay beside my children, I thought about all I had lost. My husband, my parents, and now even my in-laws. But I also realized something powerful. I was still standing. Maybe life had taken everything from me, but it hadn't taken my will to live. That night, I whispered a prayer, not for comfort, but for strength. Living in the market wasn't easy, but it became the beginning of a new life. Amina introduced me to other women who had faced similar struggles, and together, we worked hard every day. I used the little savings I had left to rent a tiny room behind the market. It was small, with cracked walls and no electricity, but it was mine. I hung a curtain at the doorway, spread a mat on the floor, and called it home. Each morning, I prayed with my twins before heading out to sell. Slowly, my business grew again. Customers began to trust me, and my goods started selling faster. I even began saving money in a cooperative bank. For the first time in years, I could breathe without fear of who might throw me out. One evening, while closing my stall, I saw Daniel approaching. He said he had been looking for me since the day I left. I told him everything that happened, expecting pity, but he just smiled gently and said, "You've done well. You didn't fall." He offered to help me open a small kiosk, a permanent space in the market where I could sell comfortably. I hesitated. unsure whether to accept, but after praying about it that night, I decided to take the chance. Within a few weeks, I had my own small shop, painted blue with my name written across the top. Standing there, watching people buy from me, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: pride. Life had broken me, but I was rebuilding, one small victory at a time. 3 years passed, and my small kiosk had become one of the busiest in the market. My twins were growing fast, always smiling when they ran to greet me after school. I had learned to live without fear, to depend only on God and my own hands. People who once mocked me now came to ask for help or advice. Even Ada's friends came sometimes to buy from me, pretending not to recognize the woman they once insulted. One afternoon, I saw my mother-in-law walking slowly toward my shop. Her face had aged, her eyes red from tears. She said Ada had been through her own troubles, and their family had realized they treated me unfairly. I stood quietly as she spoke, my heart soft but cautious. Then she held my hands and said, "You're stronger than any of us ever imagined. I'm proud of you." I smiled through tears and invited her to sit. That day, something healed inside me. That night, I looked at my twins sleeping peacefully and thought of my husband. I whispered, "I made it, love. We made it." My story was not perfect, but it was mine. From being abandoned and humiliated to standing tall as a businesswoman, I have become proof that no pain lasts forever. What people meant to break me only shaped me into something unshakable. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's a quiet woman who refuses to give up, no matter what. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more inspiring life stories. Your support helps us share more stories of hope and survival.